Good morning, everyone. It's Tess, and today is tip 225. And again, I've been for the past week looking back at some of the videos or some of my notes from the past 500 and probably 40 days with Doc V's challenge. And today what I was going to kind of talk about is something that he talked about back last April again, and it was day 40, and he was it was talking about learning new skills, and we had watched a 20-minute TED Talk, and kind of basically they were talking about that rule that most of us have learned when we were younger, where 80% of the wealth is with 20% of the people. Now that may not be a current calculation anymore, but they kind of say that you can gain 80% of mastery of a skill if you learn the 20 top techniques or items that are related to that skill. So kind of what Doc V was going over with us at that time was the idea of how to move forward faster, and that in doing faster, you don't always want to go for mastery, because during this session we were kind of talking about that the idea of mastery comes with 10,000 hours, and 10,000 hours is a lot of time to spend on something. And he was kind of saying that you don't always have to be a master. What you're trying to do is to gain a base, and then you can figure out what direction to go in. And you want to become competent. And based on a couple of these learning tools, if you're learning a new skill, what's the best way to become familiar with it is that you want to take a look at the 100 items that you'd have to learn, and which 20 of those 100 items will bring you to 80% mastery. And that's the best approach for anything, because you can fine tune it and add as time goes on, but you'll get there faster, and then you can kind of add on little by little as time permits or as the need arises. So it kind of talked about we make things too complicated, even learning a language. I've liked languages. I learned French when I was in high school. I played with Italian a little bit. I learned Japanese when I was in college. But again, a lot of those, do I remember them now? Probably not. But if I wanted to revisit them, what I would do is maybe take the 20% of the words that are used commonly every day, master those so that I could at least communicate on a trip if I went to Europe, or Polish if I wanted to learn Polish, or Italian, or Gaelic has been of interest to me. So I think that this idea of taking a look at something and identifying which 20% will make up the biggest portion of what you need to learn, and apply yourself to that, is the best possible approach. And this was something Doc V talked about in day 40 of our challenge. And I thought that it was a great thing, because when we look at the idea to master something require, oh, hi, you Pendra, it's good to see you. When we take a look at the idea from what Doc V was saying and what we learned in this day 40 of the challenge, is that if you're going to master something, 10,000 hours is a lot of hours to put into something. But we don't always need to master it. What we need to do is gain enough skills to move us forward. And that idea of taking a look at the top 100 tasks, identifying the top 20 that'll bring you 80% of the skill, and focus on those, because it can push you forward. And as you need more, he talks about, whether you want to call it a highway or the branches of a tree, as we're going down our path, we're going to always hit a point where we're going to have to learn something new and maybe adjust along the way. But my historical problem has been that I try to sit back and I try to get 100% before I ever step off the start button. And we all need to start faster, get a base down, and keep moving down the road. Because I think the one thing I never recognized in trying to be a master before I started something is that by the time I learned to be a master, technology in the world moved forward enough that I could no longer be a master because there was something new to learn. So maybe the greatest gift for myself in this particular day, this day 40 of our challenge, was that I had to start moving faster, because trying to become a perfect, absolute know-it-all master of something, I think you become obsolete before you even get out of the starting gate. So I think that idea of looking at a new task identifying the 20 items that will get you about 80% of what you need is the absolute best way to go, because as technology changes, as you learn more, you're moving faster, you're more agile, and you're more productive. And then you feel good because you're accomplishing things that you wanted to accomplish. So this idea of learning new skills faster, and maybe that's what I'll change the name of this tip to, is learning new skills faster. It is that 80-20 rule. In all areas of our life, they talk about the 80-20. 80% of the wealth is with 20% of the people. 80% of the knowledge of a new skill can be obtained by learning 20 of the top 100 tasks. So if we can apply that, Acro is saying good morning. So if we can apply that and move forward, I just think it makes life more interesting. You know, even when I think about gardening wasn't something that I was big on. I just got back from my walk. Gardening wasn't something that I was big on, but I just took the chunk of the things that I liked. I got the information from my family, and I kind of moved forward. And so I focused on like tomatoes and peppers, and tomatoes, peppers. I've put raspberries, strawberries, but each year I try to grow it a little bit more. Oh, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that you're walking. And you know, it becomes a habit. I never thought my retired mom, who whenever I said I was walking in the morning, if you had told me she'd ever join me, I would have said no. But now she's actually gotten to a point where she tells me she loves getting it out of the way. And she's down here without a problem every single morning, because she lives about half a city block from me. So we live really close. And she's down here all the time, and she's recognizing now how good it feels to get things out of the way. Like even this, I like to get up, and it's back to the same thing. I get my day started. Yeah, see, and it just feels good. So getting your day started with that walk behind your back and moving forward in your life, it just makes you feel like anything more in the day is a bonus. And if we can start finding the things to build our confidence and to build our worth, our self-worth, because that's really important, and progress forward each day, we get better. And I love this idea of learning new skills by identifying the 20 things that will give you 80% of the skill and move on those. 10,000 hours to master something is more than any of us really have. So it's back to that 80-20 rule. Figure out, looking at YouTube's, take a look at, what are the 20 things or items that seem to be popping up the most, and focus on those, and you'll move forward. And the rest of the stuff will fall into play naturally as you continue down the path. Wow, and see even this, during this day 40 that we were talking about in Doc V's challenge, 20% of perfume smells represent 80% of sales. So it was time after time after time that they were finding. So focusing on 20% of the skills will bring you 80% of the mastery, or 80% of the money. So keeping yourself, that's a great tool for keeping yourself moving forward. Stop trying to be 100%, which is where my issue used to be. Just focus on the skills that represent the top 20% that'll give you 80% of the mastery. So I thought that was a great tool that the doc was talking to us about. He also talked about gardening that day, but I'm liking that in going backward and looking at these videos from the first year, and this was day 40, it's giving me an opportunity to remind myself and to reconnect with some of the things that I may have lost over the past year. And because he was even talking about like the idea of a millionaire. How are we letting words affect us? If a word makes us uncomfortable, we need to take a look at it. And if the idea, like for me, I had to learn that mastery was not necessarily the perfect thing. If you're uncomfortable with something, then possibly that's something you need to consider, because you need to become more comfortable with all the things in the world so that you can grab the best of what's out there to move yourself forward. In a lot of the studying I've done in the past year, they're saying that there is an abundance for everybody. If you're willing to reach out, there are always things for you to reach towards. I started living in a scarcity place. So what ended up presenting, or like what I thought about, became more scarce. But if you open your mind up and know that there's a lot available, if you keep your mind open and reach for something new, you might just find that there's a passion hidden out there that you hadn't recognized, and that gives your life more joy than you ever dreamed possible. So today, think about if there's something that you've always wanted to learn. Just identify the top 20 skills, spend some hours on it, and move forward. We don't have to master everything. All we need to do is focus on those 20 skills out of the top 100 that'll get us to the 80% rule. So I hope you guys have a beautiful, beautiful day. Happy beginning of the weekend for most. And if you're down in Australia, I know you're probably already in Saturday morning. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Thanks again.